So good evening and welcome to our Lovely People webinar. So this week we have a very, very lovely guest. We have the lovely Vicky Otter. And I met Vicky when I went to, I'm not sure if I'd met you before, but I know that the time when I remember speaking to you and getting to know you a little bit was when I went to the Resilient Young Minds conference that was held towards the end of last year in Ivybridge. So I know that some of the work that you do is around young people and mental health in young people, using this understanding of the 3 principles that we talk about. So it would be great, Vicky, if you would introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, if you don't mind.
Cool, thanks, Debra. Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming along to the webinar. Thank you for inviting me. I suppose the most sensible place to start is that, so I used to be a primary school teacher. I was in that wonderful role for 6 years. And during it, I just loved, I loved many aspects of it, but the thing that was really in my heart was the well-being of the children. So I developed that within my role as class teacher, taking leads in school on PSHE, and I did something called Building Learning Power, which is all about like how your mind works as you learn, and that kind of that pastoral role and connecting to the children in that way, talking about self-belief and their self-esteem, really spoke to me. And I was a keen course taker, as I still seem to be actually. My head teacher was massively supportive, and I think it was in my 5th year of teaching, he sent me on a coaching course, and that's where I met Liz and Stu. And they were my teachers. And the coaching approach just absolutely lit my heart up. The idea that the person you're talking to has everything they need within them, that they have the potential to find their own answers, they have the creativity, it's all within them. There's something ignited in me. It was beautiful. So instantly I could bring that into my teaching and work with the children. And it started kind of really simply, really. The girls would come in, "Oh, Miss Otter, we've had a fallout." And rather than saying, "Well, why don't we try this?" and, giving advice, I find myself going, "Okay, so it sounds like this is going on. Well, what would you like to do about that?" And first you get this, like, they're all looking at each other kind of going, "What? This isn't how this conversation normally goes." And that you draw out from them. And they were so capable of doing that, of finding their own answers and ideas. And so they'd say, "Oh, well, maybe, I should play with her for this break and her tomorrow lunch," or whatever their solution was. And I'd go, "Okay, cool, give it a try, come back to me." And it was just such this lovely way of kind of pointing them to their own wisdom in that moment, but lightly. It's like, "Okay, we'll just try it." And it was all off me. Like, I didn't have to be the solution maker to everything all of a sudden, which was really lovely. And it was at one of those training sessions with Liz, and I was talking to her about some children that I was working with in my class. And I said the phrase, and I don't know how it came out. I don't know how we got there, but the phrase was, "Because I know that they aren't broken and they don't need fixing." And Liz went, "Oh, have you come across something called the 3 principles, Vicky?" And I said no, but I then embarked on my journey with the 3 principles, with a lovely sort of 3 or 4 day retreat with Anne Ross. And by that time I decided I really wanted to follow this sense of wanting to work within well-being. So by that point decided I was going to go part-time teaching, and I had decided I was going to do a counselling course in the sort of the time when I wasn't teaching. And on that retreat, it was called, Anne called it Leading from Within. And just something in me just said, "Hey, Vicky, you're trying to fill a gap. You've stopped teaching so much and you feel like you need to fill it with something. What if you just waited and just let the universe take care of whatever was going to fill the gap? Just see what comes up." I don't know why that came to me, but that's what came to me. And so I did. I pulled out of the counselling course thinking, well, I can go back to that if I need to. And I'll just see what comes up. And what came up was I wanted to run my own business. I wanted to be doing well-being. I wanted to be exploring this approach of you have everything you need within you even more. And so that's what I did. And it became very apparent during that year that I couldn't teach a class and really lead a business in the way that I wanted to. So I then left teaching, and that was in 2000 and oh, you think I'd know that? I think it was 3 years ago. Okay, this is my third trading year, so it was however long ago that was. 2016, I guess. Would that be right? Something like that. And so now I have the total joy of having a job. I call myself a wellbeing coach, and I do one-to-one work with young people, using the coaching approach with them, and delivering workshops in schools. And I'm starting to do some group sessions as well up in my private work as well. So just this glorious job, sort of exploring well-being and pointing young people to the wisdom that exists within them already and how their mind works.
That is brilliant. That is lovely. I love the way when you're kind of describing how it unfolds, and I don't even know where that came from. And I think it's great when we have no idea where these things come from. I think it's really good to just allow life to unfold. We've been taught I know my experience has been, I was taught so much kind of that somebody else knew, and rely on other people and know where it all comes from and know how it's going to happen. So it's really kind of cool, isn't it, that we're pointing our children towards. No, because one of the things that I do often, like, if you take this group, these people here, and if you kind of said, what had to happen for you to be on this call right now? And it's like, we kind of see how we're part of something bigger and we're not in isolation, because where do you start that?
That's really nice. I haven't seen it like that before. What a lovely question to ask, as a way of seeing the interaction of the connection in everything. That's part of the bigger, whatever it is, bigger plan, bigger life, bigger unfolding. That's lovely. I like that one. I'll take that one.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Collaborate, share. So, can you talk to us a little bit about this understanding? Often when we're in these conversations, we kind of say, oh, since I came across this understanding, or the principles this, or whatever. So if somebody's here watching and kind of going, yeah, but what principles? What understanding? What are you talking about? What does that look like to you? What is it we're talking about? What is it we're looking to understand?
Okay, great question. Let me just take a moment to think. So I think if I could share with you a little bit about what happened before I came across the principles, because that really still informs my understanding of the principles now. So I'll just do the kind of the pre-bit and link it. So I had these two insights before I came across the principles, and I probably wouldn't have called them insights. It's maybe just like I realized, or I suddenly, came to understand or something, but now I'd name them insights. And they were massively life-changing. And one of them, so the first one took place. So I was looking towards self-help, self-development, mindfulness, meditation. I was looking in the direction of kind of inner peace. And it was during a Deepak Chopra meditation. And completely unexpected. I'd done a few of them already. I was sitting in my bed ready to do my meditation, sitting upright, listening to his lovely words that he starts his meditations with. And he said, I think these are the words he said, you need to change nothing about who you really are. And I heard it, like something in me really heard it. And it was like, oh my goodness, that's true. And I haven't been living as if that's true. And so I cried, and I had a real emotional reaction to the sense that was true. And that was really different, because I'd lived my life up to that point really feeling like I did need to change, and I wasn't good enough as I was, and I'd lost touch perhaps, kind of consciously, with that true self that he was pointing to. So that was the first thing. So I had something going on within that, and I was then trying to understand that and unpick that. And then the second insight that came to me came to me in a completely different situation. It came to me in a moment of complete distress. And I was getting myself into distress, I now see, but what I was distressed about looked real. And it was this fact that although I'd already seen there was some truth that I didn't need to change, I still had a lot of thinking about needing to change and not being good enough. And I decided to journal. So I was journaling, but my journaling in that instance was just taking me down the spiral of proving myself right. So everything I wrote, it was like, see, I do need to change. See, I'm not good enough. And so I was getting myself more and more and more and more upset the more I proved myself right. And when I was trying to prove myself wrong because I'd had this other insight. Anyway, I was in this moment of distress, and beautifully now I look back at it and I see that my wisdom was like, go next door and see your friend. So I went next door and I handed her, in my floods of tears, my diary, and she read it, and she really quietly and looked at me and she said, and what if you're wrong? And I heard that and I was like, oh, I might think it, but it might not be true. Hang on a minute. And so then I kind of was like, oh my goodness, I can think something and it can be not true, but I can have made it up and feel it. So then I knew there was something going on with my thinking. So I had this like heart spiritual kind of insight around my true self, not needing to change who I really was. And that something was going on with my thinking, creating things that looked real and felt very true that weren't necessarily true. And so then I came to the principles. And the principles just kind of, for me, made that make sense. And the way that I see the principles links a lot to those insights that I had beforehand. In terms of, if we're going to talk about 3 principles, I talk about them in a way of powers, which I'm sure lots of people do. So I don't claim that these are mine. I've obviously heard them from someone else, but that we have the power of thought, which is the power to create anything in our minds, and that is infinite. And today I did this. I wonder if I could actually do it on this webinar. Hang on a second. So it occurred to me a couple of days ago that we have one of our gifts, our innate superpowers, is the power of thought. And if we view these bubbles, we have the power, which is the breath that we use to create thoughts, like the bubbles. And the thoughts arise up within us, and then they pop again, and they go again. And sometimes they're fast, and sometimes they're slow, and sometimes there's lots of them, and sometimes there's not. What we're born with is this gift to create them. That seems to have gone down quite well with a couple of clients that I've shared that with. So that's really nicely as well.
Yeah.
A really nice.
Identify with that, can't you? How they're different, and just because you blow, the bubbles come out very differently each time, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah. And it led to a really interesting conversation with one of the people that I've shared it with around kind of choice and control and randomness, and just this beautiful exploration around thought. So there's thought, and we also have been given the gift of consciousness, and consciousness, as I see it, brings those thoughts to life. So we really experience them as our reality. So when I was in distress thinking I needed to change, I was bringing those needing to change thoughts to life within me, and it felt horrible in that moment. So and so the gift of consciousness brings our thinking to life, but also and this is an insight that I've had just this week as I was reading around this, and I thought this was really beautiful, that not only is it the consciousness to bring thinking to life, but also we have an awareness that we think, like we can be aware of that fact. And I thought, well, that's useful. That's a useful power to have, like to become aware that we think, because it's invisible.
Yep.
And of course, consciousness as an awareness of everything within life, like that beautiful example you gave at the beginning. What's now come into my consciousness is this connection of getting people here. That's part of life unfolding, and now that's within my awareness and my understanding. And so consciousness seems to be this ever expanding awareness of everything. And then the final one I've started to call wisdom. Not because I don't like, so the technical term, the Sydney Banks's term for this was mind. I can find that word a little confusing when I'm using it with clients. So I use the term wisdom to point to the wisdom of everything, the wisdom within them psychologically and spiritually, the wisdom within us, within our bodies, to breathe our lungs, to beat our hearts, to digest our food, to grow, to heal. The wisdom of the universe, that the spring and summer and autumn and winter all take care of themselves. And within that there's this sense of, and we aren't doing anything, no effort to make it happen. And that's part of the wisdom of the system. A bigger connection to something greater, always guiding you and always there. I think that's it.
That was lovely. It was really beautiful, and a really, really, really nice way to speak about. As I said, I feel very, very blessed that I get to hear people's explanations, and yeah, we can steal from each other. I might take your bubbles. I've got a client who'll love your bubbles. So.
It's a really funny thing as well, because what's happened, the couple of people that I've used it with, is that they realise something as they're blowing those bubbles. And I just need to say, what occurred to you whilst you were blowing those bubbles? And something, but I mean, I've only done this twice. It's not a very scientifically large group of people. But you know, it's so beautiful, isn't it? That you can be doing something so simple and wisdom touches them.
Yes.
Wisdom touches all of us. Beautiful. Yeah.
I love the simplicity of this understanding. That's what I love, how simple it is, and bringing people back to that simplicity is really good, which is why it's, it is beautiful working with young people, working within a school, because they just get it, don't they, when you kind of, I'm there overcomplicating things and yet they're bringing it back to the simplicity of it all. So could you share with us, if you've got somebody in front of you who's struggling, you have a client come to you because they've got a problem or something, how do you work with people around this understanding? How do you share and get it across to people what,
So firstly, in lots of different ways, because if you're present with the person in front of you, no person is going to be the same. Of course, at their core, they're the same. How they're operating is the same, but they present in a different way. You develop as a different relationship. So very, very differently in different sessions. And that's sort of really lovely to accept, because perhaps our society, I don't know, perhaps just me, perhaps teaching, who knows, you're looking for a way that works, and you want that strategy, and you want to be able to go, here's the lesson plan, off you go. And there is that in me. No matter how much in teaching you're encouraged to use your own creativity, it feels like it would be more helpful if someone just gave you a plan. And so it can feel like that, perhaps, when you come to work with clients, coaching clients, that you think, well, I'm going to use, like now, I might get a little bit attached to this bubbles thing. And I'm going to have to watch that I'm present with the client in front of me as to whether this is going to be helpful or not. And so staying present means it's going to be different with different clients. And I suppose I've had some experience of something really beautiful that can happen. But I'm not there. I wouldn't go out there and say, this is just how I work all the time. And that is allowing the client to bring their problem as they see it, if they would like to, and talk about it if they would like to, and also know that they don't need to for beautiful change to take place for them in their lives and around those problems that they first think they have. So it kind of depends on what the client wants, but most one-to-one clients in particular that I work with, I'm just checking, sorry, I'm making sure that what I'm saying is accurate, are happy to leave the problem alone for a bit. I kind of, it can feel very unusual to some of them. I get some resistance to that sometimes. It's like, no, I'm here to talk about this problem and I want it fixed. And I can then get caught in that too, right? I can think, well, yeah, maybe we should be talking about that because that is what you're paying your money for. And so, yeah, maybe I'm not right about all this other stuff that seems to be working, and maybe we should just stick to the problem. But there's a sense of, so if it's feeling like that kind of urgency, that, oh yeah, it does need fixing, that's not normally a helpful place for me to be working from, because I'm attached to some form of outcome, which is something that tends to come up for me. I notice that rises for me. I get attached to an outcome. I want it to be a certain way. I want to, have the transformational insight in my coaching session, please. And that's how, and then you'll work out all your solutions to all of your problems, or whatever it is, or one specific thing. I want this person to stop binge eating, or whatever it is, you get very attached. So I now notice when I'm feeling like that, and I tend to pull back and think, hang on a minute, do something else, get some clay out, blow some bubbles, like do something else. This isn't helpful. And so when I'm in my flow and feeling like not urgent, feeling peace, feeling ease, working with them might look like talking about their problem, but not in a way that requires us to get anywhere. You're just allowing them to be, and to be allowed to have the experience they're having. So sometimes it looks like that. And then with some clients who are up for, okay, let's put the problem down and see what happens. Or maybe even, I know that there's this going on in my life, but I don't really want to talk about it. And we leave it to the side. And then we just explore the nature of being human. And I've had, several times when a client, one is coming to mind now. She keeps like flashing up, so I'm wondering if perhaps sharing that, she was one of the clients that said, I've got these things, but I'm not ready to talk about them. And we explored life and her mind and her innate wisdom and her well-being, and how thoughts come and go and feelings come and go, the temporary nature of those, but the permanence of her and who she really was. And we got to about the 6th session, and I said, can we have a review? Let's see how you're doing. And she went back to the things that she said were problems when she started, and she told me how they'd changed, and it was full of, oh, I understand that more now. Like, I can see why those people made those decisions, and we hadn't even talked about it. I hadn't done any work around her understanding of those problems. I'm sorry, I was going to do quote marks for problems, because things that can appear like problems at the start become non-problems. And so it really struck me, wow, like, you can really not talk about the problems and the client can have this lovely transformation around them with their wisdom taking care of it, when we just look in the direction of completeness and wholeness and how our mind really works.
That's lovely, thank you. So how do you see this impacting, obviously we were at the Resilient Young Minds conference, and it was really great kind of talking about our youngsters and sharing this with our youngsters. How do you see this impacting youngsters, if we manage to get this into more schools and into more places? What do you see the impact of that?
Oh, nice question. Hmm. Well, I suppose so like logically, what makes sense to me is that you'd see what I witness happen in individual classrooms happening on a larger scale. So what I see happening in individual classrooms is a lightness coming to the children. There's kind of like, there seems to be a pattern in their big learning points. And I can't say, maybe there are many more individual learning points that they haven't shared with me, but from a facilitator point of view, I always see, or have seen, a big shift when they realise that they're allowed to feel any feeling. And I don't know that that's technically principles. It's just kind of allowing. I know, it's like, I get worried that it's like not.
There are no principles. There are no principles police on here, so you don't have to worry. Okay. All good.
Yeah, so a big shift when they realise that they're allowed to feel all their feelings, that although we term some of them as negative and positive, and there's a lot of language around not feeling certain feelings, or don't be angry about that, or oh, don't be sad, and now I'm going to try and cheer you up, and you know, stay calm, and there's lots of guidance around what feelings we're meant to feel and what we're not meant to feel. And there's always this big sense of relief, and kind of like the kids didn't know that I'm there going, I'm here to tell you you're allowed to feel any feeling, and we're going to explore why, but you're allowed. And there's always a shift. There's something that happens in the room when they hear that from in themselves. And so that's the one thing. And then as we go on to explore why it's okay to feel all feelings, there can be a beautiful shift as they realize this link between thoughts and feelings. Oh, I'm thinking it, so I'm feeling it. Oh, okay. And they kind of get like a inkling of the things outside of them can't make them feel anything, and something in the past hasn't got the power to make them feel anything. And there's a shift that it's not as clear cut as the feelings one. They kind of go, oh, it's like it's really clear. They thought they weren't allowed to, and now they are allowed to, and hey, that's good news. The thought feeling link is a bit murkier. So I remember one class I was working with, I knew they were like, so we were doing thoughts and the thought feeling link, and they'd gone along with me in all of the learning, and along we went, and along we went, and along we went, and they were coming with me. And I thought, I don't think they realise the implications of what this means, that what they're kind of agreeing to. So I ended with, so I'm going to just put some implications up on the board about what this means. And I chose some examples. So it means that nothing outside of you has the power to make you feel anything. This means no one else can annoy you. Right. Well, it was like they got, oh yeah, Miss Otter, yeah, right, yeah, we're on it. And then they all went, what? No, that's not true. And the whole lesson then was like, no, I don't agree with anything actually that you said. Apart from one girl fought it. She was like, no, yeah, that would be true. If what we're saying is true, that's true. Bless her. The next time she couldn't remember that she did that, which was a shame, because I was kind of relying on her to be like, remember how she understood. So anyway, but then you go on and explore that, because it so looks like they can annoy you. It looks that way, and so we can explore that. But yeah, it's quite funny. I can't remember why I'm telling you that now. But yeah, that was funny. So that's what I was saying. It's not clear cut. It's not like they suddenly go, oh, okay, so my thoughts create my feelings, thank you very much, now I get that. Like there's much more murkiness to that, as there is for us as adults, because we get blind spots. And what else I see is a shift when they realize that they can listen to themselves, and that they don't need to always take advice from outside. That we can trust their own creativity and their own wisdom. There is a sense of pure joy within the sessions when they're allowed to just follow that. They're just, so can I do this? So you're going to let me do this poster? Yeah, you're going to do a poster about what you've learned in this session, whatever comes up for you. So can I use felt tips? Yeah, you use whatever you like, it's your poster. So does it need to be landscape or portrait? No, literally. you choose everything. And there's such little things, but even from those small building blocks of choice, you see them kind of going, oh yeah, like I have a voice, I have a say, I have an opinion. And just this, it's this just constant beautiful drawing out of them and their wisdom. And of course, naturally, they start making choices about posters, and then they're making choices about telling their dad they'd like to see him at Christmas, or talking to a sister that they haven't spoken to for a while. And do you know, so then we get, you know, wisdom bringing them deeper, more transformational life choices. But it all starts from just valuing their voice, their own voice and their own wisdom. And when they see that for themselves, that they can do that. And even if it just ends at, oh, I can make my own choices about my poster, even if that's all, as far as it takes them, for then, that's enough of an opening.
Yeah. That's really, really beautiful, really lovely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if somebody, you know, is interested in sharing these principles, you know, they've come across this, they've had a little bit of transformation themselves, they've seen something in their own life, what would be, from your experience and what's happened to you, what would be one piece of advice you would give someone who was considering, you know, starting to share these principles with people?
Only one piece.
You can do as much as you want. Go.
Okay.
You have the floor.
Oh, do you know, well, okay, I suppose they do kind of link to each other. It's so funny, isn't it? What would my advice be? So the first thing that occurs to me is trust yourself. So, oh, I know what the advice is. It's the advice I was given. Okay, sorry, there were several bits, and then, okay, so trust yourself and share what you know to be true, which comes from your own experience. And if you're sharing what you know, it comes from such a deep place that it has impact. There's some impact in that, as far as I can tell, because it's like soul to soul or heart to heart or something. It's you know, it's deep, it's a deep connection. So share what you know. When we try and share beyond that, it's got a different feeling to it. So share what you know and trust that what you know is enough, and that more will come, because it's an ever unfolding journey of learning. But just trust that you can share all that you have already, and that it has impact. So that's my first piece. And then in that trusting and that connecting to your own wisdom and your own self, hear what comes up. So I've recently done the iHeart curriculum training, which was fabulous. Such fun, such a great curriculum. It's amazing. But before that, I hadn't got I'd heard about it, but I didn't want to do it. I didn't, and I stuck with that. I had a feeling of not really wanting to go and learn a curriculum. I was enjoying going free flow. I was just like listening to myself, thinking, well, how might I share this now, and seeing what wisdom brought me. I was really enjoying that process. And it's not that I stopped enjoying that process, but tuning into me, something shifted. And I thought, but you know what, maybe I'm going to look at that curriculum now. And I did, and I've learned it, and I'm hoping to run my first days of it next month. And I'm really excited about it. It's really cool, and I will continue to use my creativity, but it gave me a beautiful, in the end, it gave me a beautiful contrast. So I've got my free flow nature of sharing the principles. And then there was this very structured, very clear curriculum. And beautifully, I was just able to see, hey, that's just a different way of doing the same thing. Cool. That's nice. And now I'm really excited that I've got it, and I want to go and see what it's like to deliver it in a very structured way, because I haven't been doing that. But I would encourage people to know, perhaps from this is an opinion, in my experience, that neither one seems at this point in my life better than the other. It's just a different way of sharing it. And so just listen to what's true for yourself in sharing the principles. Do what occurs to you. Don't feel like you need a course because you're not good enough as you are. You are. But if you enjoy doing a course and learning that and delivering that curriculum, go for it as well. So there's really no right or wrong around that. It's just tune in and listen to yourself. You'll know when it's right and what's right for you. And if you don't know yet, then that's okay too. Just keep waiting, it will come.
That is brilliant. I love that. I am really, really, really loving our conversation, but I'm aware that there are other people here. And, you know, I could just keep talking as if it's the two of us. I'm having great fun. We will open it up just in case anyone, you know, if anything's coming up for anyone in our conversation, if anyone would like to add anything, if anyone would like to ask a question, or if you've got any comments or anything, please feel free. You know, you can either unmute yourself, or if you've got your video playing, you know, wave your hand around and I can unmute you. But it would be really, really great if anyone would like to comment, ask a question, anything. Oh, we've got a quiet group on tonight. No? Okay, that's cool.
I'm interested, Deborah. Sorry, do you mind? I'm just so intrigued as to who we've got in the group, and whether we've got people working with young people already, and what their experiences are of working with you. I'm sure that there must be people probably on here who are already also doing this work and have answers to the questions that you've asked me as well. If anyone would be, I know it's a bit flipping it round. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, but if anyone wants to share their own experience, I'd love to hear what you're finding with young people.
Since everyone else is being really quiet, I'll jump in. Yeah, we've been working with a group of young people at a local college here, and we, a little bit like you were kind of saying there, we just unfolded and kind of turned up in the room and let come whatever comes. But one of the things we did, which I think is something Deb's taught a lot before, but then after we've been to the Resilient Young Minds, I think this was all prevalent for us, was the diamond philosophy. We kind of, we really like it. Really kind of, I think, hit home for all four of us. How nice a way of talking about this it is to kind of talk about the diamond, our inner diamond. It's kind of unbroken, undamaged. And so, in one of the sessions, Deb kind of, in a most artistic way, drew a diamond for the girls in the group, and then kind of covered it in like we didn't have a brown pen, but Deb was kind of saying, oh, you know, your diamond can get covered in really shitty thinking, but she had a green pen, and one of the girls straight away came out with, oh, it's like lime scale, and that was it for the rest of that. We referred to it as their lime scale. And they were kind of all having a good laugh about this, and they were talking about Seal It Bang, you know, that kind of cleaner that you use to get rid of lime scale. So yeah, that was just one of those moments where, like you say, you kind of ask them to come up with their own solutions to this, their own way of seeing what we're talking about. And definitely the group of girls we've been working with have done that. You know, we started the metaphor, but they've taken it their own way, and it resonates for them. Yeah, really. So yeah, that's kind of our little bit of experience that we've had with the. That's
really nice. Yeah, it's funny, the the way a group can take it, and then you just stick with that. It's really nice. It really, because it becomes theirs. I remember Liz and Stu came in and watched me do some wellbeing sessions last year, and I hadn't heard him say this, but on Liz's recording, they're talking about, so what you're referring to as the diamond. So I use the sunshine. So we're talking about the same thing, their well-being within them. And that's always there, indestructible, immovable, undamageable. So I'd refer to it as sunshine that never goes away. And this little lad says, so Liz asks, how would you describe the well-being within you, or whatever question she asked? And he said, well, it's like, you know, when you get chewing gum stuck to your shoe, you can't get it off. It's like that. It doesn't go anywhere. It's like, okay. Chewing gum stuck to your shoe it is, as long as it never goes away.
It's brilliant, isn't it, what they come out with? But then when it's in their own words, like you say, you know, it belongs to them, doesn't it? And definitely our group of girls, they call themselves the Sillet Bang group, you know, and if they're talking between themselves, they're kind of saying, oh, remember your Sillet Bang? You know, that's definitely, I can absolutely see, you know, moving forward, I'm sure if any one of them were upset, if one of them said the word Sillet Bang, it would just mean something to them. So
yeah, it's beautiful.
It has meaning. Yeah, it brings meaning
in. Yeah, absolutely. It's really nice.
It is. So is there anyone else who would like to share anything, or, you know, make a comment or anything? Always good to hear from people. Oh, hello, Martin. I think you are unmuted, aren't you? You can go for it.
Hi, Deb. Right, great to be on the call. So I was late, miss. What I was interested in, Vicky, was what you were saying. I'm going to start working with probably 2 or 3 groups of kids to ask from next week in school. So it was nice that you spoke about the shifts that you saw. So I've jotted those down just as a point of reference to things to watch out for. You know, when people want us to measure this stuff, we're going to talk about that with the management line. But it's just nice to, you know, you've gone there before me, and that's really useful. And Lucy, I remember either hearing you or reading about the diamond thing, you know, that what Michael did, and I was quite inspired by that. So I bought some diamonds.
Wow!
You get a bag of them for about £1. So what we're going to do, I've ordered some air drying clay as well. So we're going to do the diagram first and talk about what's in the diamond, what's, you know, as we know, and talk about all the muck around it, what sort of stuff's in there, maybe the feelings and things that we say, and then the nail body is how we show up in the world. And then what we're going to do, each kid is going to have their own diamond, and we're going to put the air drying clay around it, and then we're going to, when it's dry, we're going to paint the outside and varnish it, and each kid's going to have this as well. And it'll be interesting to see. I'm actually going to get better ones than these. These are dead cheap ones, but you can get really nice ones that glisten like a prism off the internet for only a few pounds. And I think the kids will be quite loath to cover up these beautiful diamonds rather than these cheap plastic ones. Oops. So I'll be interested to see how that works out. And that's going to be one of the initial lessons, maybe the second lesson, just to get this embedded. I was interested in what you said about the thought-feeling connection, because last night I was giving this some thought, and I'm going to be looking at the difference between correlation and cause and effect in a very simple way, talking about superstitions. And there's a great website by a student from Yale University somewhere, and just for fun, he's collected all these facts on graphs which have nothing to do with each other. So there's things like when Nicolas Cage is in a movie, sales of ice cream go up in Alabama. Or like when George says, you know, people put their umbrellas up and there's water on the ground. There seems to be a correlation. Well, actually, it's raining. And there was an interesting one, a couple of interesting ones. One where, and this sounded scientific, that if you left the light on for a baby when it was going to sleep, it became short-sighted. And there's quite a big study on this, and it was looking really real. But then they realised what was happening was it was genetics, because the parents who left the lights on tend to be short-sighted, so they couldn't see the kids from a distance with the light off. Crazy. One's about women in HRT and things like that, which was absolutely, it was a correlation but not a cause and effect. So we're going to talk around that and talk about the greatest secret on earth and the biggest lie, and then we'll explore the thought-feeling connection. So hopefully with all that framing around it, it'll just be another superstition. So that's a couple of ideas I've got, but thanks for sharing, and thank you for the diamond idea as well there.
That's really
Thank
cool.
you. Yeah, that's lovely. It's great to hear what people are up to, isn't it? And like to share with each other, because very much, you know, it's really, really great to collaborate and help each other, because we're all looking towards the same outcome, aren't we? We're kind of, yeah, that's really, really great. That's brilliant. So is there anything else occurring to you, Vicky, that you would like to share with this group this evening?
Well, I just think Martin's just been a wonderful example there of trust yourself, your own ideas are good enough, and yeah, but like you said as well, Debs, the collaboration. So Martin there recognising Lucy for using the diamond and sharing that, and that had come from Liz and Stu were working with people like that, were they, or Elizabeth or somebody at that school was, and anyway, I don't know where it originated from, who knows, but that we hit things resonate for us in other people's sharings, and we like some of it, we don't like some of it, but the bits that resonate with us are really lovely, and we kind of end up making them then something into our own. And I love what you described, Martin. I think they're great practical, visual, enjoyable activities that will get them curious, and can I come? I want to come. That looks, it sounds great. Really, really, yeah. So I suppose just pointing everyone back to trusting what they know, trusting. So I suppose maybe I'm saying this to give myself permission to do this. Trusting what we know, even if it doesn't seem like it's the principles. So allowing yourself to share your truth, whatever that may be. The principles are a beautiful and helpful description of life, but you may well bring your own other stuff to the table that is equally impactful and beautiful and helpful. And so I suppose that's a place to end, Debs, just to give everyone, point them back to themselves.
And I think that's what Sid was trying to do with the principles. He just put words onto something to point us back to that. And very much, if those words don't work, then just scrap those words off and use Sillet Bang or a diamond or whatever it is. Yeah. We're all pointing to the same thing, and it is sometimes, you know, it was a good signpost. I think Sid came up with a great signpost there, but that's what it was. That's what it is. It's a signpost. It's not truth, you know, isn't the signpost. So absolutely, you know, what makes sense to you is absolutely where this is at. So has anyone else got anything else they would like to say before we start wrapping up this evening? Well, I think you're officially a truly lovely person, Vicky. That has been an absolute pleasure and a delight. It's been a great conversation, a really fun, lively, lovely conversation, and I can really see, I expect the kids absolutely love you. I bet they were gutted, your children, when you stopped teaching. I bet they were gutted.
Aww, thank you. It's a blessing to be able to do the job, isn't it, and work with them. They I think working with children for me lets me find my childlikeness inside, and that's a lovely thing.
Yeah, we've got Lucy. She's brilliant.
Yeah, she does that. Great.
She's very, an absolute amazing example of that. Right,
Cool.
so Beck, who have we got as our love? Oh, I can remember who we've got as our lovely person next week. Go me. See if I can get it right. Have we got Ian Watson next week?
Yes.
Yeah, so if anyone would like to join us next week for our Lovely People webinar, it's going to be the lovely, well, we assume he's the lovely, we will see. Ian Watson.
Approval till he's done the webinar.
Yeah, so that's next Wednesday. The recording of this will be on YouTube, depending on my internet connection, hopefully by tomorrow morning. Is there anything else, Beck, that I'm supposed to remember to say at this point?
Anyone that's local, we've got our end of the month workshop on Saturday the 26th of January. And if you like joining us on webinars, we have lots of them. We're doing a New Year No Money series at the moment, which you can still register for. And we have a live stream launch party, which is online at the end of January as well, around our online membership. And all of that information is on our website, daretobeu.co.uk. Or you can, see what we're up to on Facebook and stuff. Always lots of fun happening with us.
Yeah, we're always up to something. And I loved, for me personally, like when you were talking earlier, Vicky, the reason we call our business Dare to Be You is because I think this is an exploration of who we are, and to dare to be that, to see the deeper truth of who we are and then be that shamelessly.
Yeah, beautiful.
We are stealing the bubbles, thank you.
What was that? I didn't hear that.
Stealing the bubbles.
Oh, the bubbles, yeah, we're stealing.
Oh, good, yeah, have that. I heard that it's funny, I heard that from someone else, and when I heard it, and this is like years ago, I heard this idea that you can use thoughts like bubbles, and it didn't, I had nothing. I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't understand it. And then now I'm like, oh, it's a genius idea. Funny,
You have the right to change your mind.
Indeed. And it shows how it needs to make sense for the individual, and it comes from within the individual, not from the idea itself from the outside.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that's why it's great to have these conversations with different people, because you just hear little, and it can be the tiniest things that spark the biggest insights sometimes. Things start to unravel. It's really, really good. So
cool.
Thank you very, very much, everybody, for joining us this evening, and hopefully we will see some of you again very, very soon.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Bye.
Bye.